Guys, let's give everybody a little bit of time to get connected before we get started here, but hopefully this is a little bit more stable of a connection for everybody, so we can all watch accordingly. All right, so I'm looking to see how I interact with people here on this one. This is a little bit of a different setup than what I have on the studio. So bear with me just a moment while I get used to it as well. And Facebook gives you tips every time you sign on to a live broadcast, every single time. And I don't need the tips. I'm good. All right. So yeah, I don't see where I can interact with people. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. Comment moderation, comments and moderation tools down below. Comments. Okay. Doesn't say there are any comments right now, so there we go. Now we're getting some. Whew. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm freaking out. All right. Hello, Ronald. We're going to give everybody a little bit of extra time to get connected since it's such a long lag after the radio show. But oh my gosh, the internet connection in the studio was the problem the whole time. I thought it was my gear. I literally tried everything I could think of. I lowered the broadcast quality from the computer, lowered the frames from 60 frames per second to 29, which is between 29.9 is standard definition TV broadcasting. Plenty good for a cell phone, but if you can broadcast in HD, you may as well. So I had started it on HD. It was awful. So then, I ran a test on the internet speed, they were getting less than 1 megabyte per second upload. And then after I was done, after I called it, basically tore everything down. While I'm doing the After Schrock, Roger's uploading the radio show for me to get it up on the internet so we can share it on the Schrock pages and everything, the audio version, get it out to the other stations so they can air it. And he literally is like, Thor, I don't know. Normally this takes like, a minute to upload. He goes, it's been going for 10 minutes. He goes, I have to do an entire weekend's worth of work in here. He goes, I'm thinking about just starting an upload queue and then going and getting breakfast and coming back because it's that slow. So not only was I getting a slow connection, I was splitting the slow connection with Roger to the point where streaming from my phone with my phone's wireless internet connection was exactly the same as the studio internet. It was ridiculous. So anyway, and normally what ends up happening is I send an email to Scott. Scott tells the engineer there's something going on. The engineer remotes in and reboots the modem, and everything is fine for a week. That's why last week was so good. I don't know if we just need to set up like a regular appointment to reboot the router. Maybe you should replace the router. Just a thought. Uh, but anyway, we're here. We're doing it. So I wanted to make sure you got your Aftershock in. I teased it the whole show, and then to not have it wouldn't have been very cool. All right. So first of all, this is your opportunity. You can ask any questions you want. If you want to talk about something, just raise it in the comments section. We can chit chat about it. But I got a few things that are interesting a little bit. Um, we have the $1.3 billion is lost in romance scams in the past 5 years. I think I said annually before, 1.3 billion in the last year, but it's the last 5 years. Still, that's a lot. Apparently, there's a documentary on Netflix called The Tindler Swindler, and it's apparently an interesting watch. I guess I've never seen it. I'm not advocating it. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. That's what it is. But basically, the show is about a fraudster that impacted the lives of multiple women, matching with them on Tinder, which is a dating app on smartphones, and treating them to expensive dates to gain their trust, and then eventually asking them for huge sums of money. So there you go. Bear with me just a second. There we go. I'm tired of looking off to the side. I'm going to make sure I'm going to unify my windows here. There we go. So basically, you watch that show and you're like, how would somebody, no matter whether they're a man or a woman, how can they allow themselves to get swindled like that? Well, apparently it happens a lot. There are fake profiles, stolen videos and photos, sob stories from fraudsters, cars broken down. I can't afford to meet you because my car broke down. The schemes are also more subtle than direct requests for money. In most cases, users have been lured into explicit webcam sessions with a match and then blackmailed. I don't need to explain to you how that happens, right? Okay, I'm not going to explain how that happens. You can use your imagination. In others, dating apps and social media networks are used as conduits for cryptocurrency and financial scams. Consumers have lost $1.3 billion in the last 5 years, and the average victim will lose $2,400, but the rate can be far higher or far lower. So that's the average victim, not the median victim. Here's how the scam works out. A fake love interest will talk to the victim for a long enough time to gain their trust, and then they will offer the victim a lucrative, time-sensitive business opportunity. This is a crypto scam. If you invest in this cryptocurrency exchange or financial product now, you will have X in return. The problem is that the funds that the people send in go directly to the fraudster's wallet, not to the exchange, and they're never invested, they're never returned. Sometimes the victim is lured into downloading or setting up an account on a fake exchange site. So they upload their social security number, their pictures, all the facial recognition data, basically everything you would need to create a fake profile somewhere else gets uploaded to this fake exchange. So the fraudster then has the ability to open up accounts in this person's name on other exchanges. The median loss, so in other words, I told you the average loss was $2,400. The median loss for cryptocurrency scams is close to $10,000. So half of the people are over 10,000 and half of the people are under 10,000. Largest reported losses to romance scams were paid in cryptocurrency, 139 million last year alone. That's going to keep going up. That's a remarkable growth in cryptocurrency payments to romance scammers. The 2021 numbers are nearly 5 times those reported in 2020. Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? Crypto is becoming a mainstream adopted platform. Look at what's happening with the Freedom Convoy truckers. GoFundMe seizes their money. So everyone says, well, charge back GoFundMe. It costs them $25 a chargeback. GoFundMe freaks out and refunds a bunch of people, but apparently there's still $1 million that hasn't been refunded. So then the TD Bank that's holding the funds for GoFundMe decides they're going to take the money and give it to the Canadian government. So they do. Wow. Just wow. And so there's a cryptocurrency crowdfunding campaign that's been started where basically people can contribute as little as 1 Satoshi, a fraction of a penny, to the trucker, to the Freedom Convoy. And then because the cryptocurrency can't be seized. It can't be taken. The only thing that you can try to do is stop it from being transferred into fiat currency. But if you set up a deal with a gasoline company, for example, to deliver diesel or to provide diesel, and you agree to pay in crypto, and the company can take that crypto on their own and change it into fiat, they're not committing any crime. So literally what you're starting to see now is the realization among the people that governments control money. The government makes the money, the government regulates the money, the government controls the money. And that's the big push behind the central bank digital currencies. It's not a crypto thing, it's a control thing. Because a central bank digital currency works different than a cryptocurrency. There is a central point of failure, i.e. the central bank part of it. Whereas with a cryptocurrency, it's decentralized. As long as people want to use the cryptocurrency has the capability to be used. If nobody wants to use it, it won't get used. And we see that all the time with all the junk coins that are out there. But yeah, it hit me. Here we are coming up on Valentine's Day. And, there's always those people that are forlorn in love, and they're going to make a resolution to maybe get something, do something, find that special one, and they're going to jump online and do these things. And there's a lot of scams out there, guys. Just be real careful when you go online. Realize that the person you're talking to may not be the actual person you're talking to. It could be a fake profile picture, especially if it's too good to be true. I mean, guys, come on. You're on a dating site and some smoking hot chick dials you up, Is it your lucky day, or is it your just too lucky of a day? Ladies, same thing for you. I mean, come on. Chiseled hunk man wants to go on a date with you, and it's like, wow, it's my lucky day. Is it though? Is it? I don't know. So I don't know. Find those ugly guys. They're good matches. No one ever puts up an ugly picture. Those are real profiles. All right. Audio levels are low. All right, let me see if I can boost you here. Bear with me a second. Okay. Microphone access is on. Yes, I know microphone access is on. I want to boost the microphone levels. All right. Open. Sorry, guys. Normally I would have all these settings like set up beforehand, obviously. Okay, so that is a webcam input volume. Let me see about changing microphones to my condenser mic. Check, check, check. That's a little better. Not great, but a little better. I'll let you guys tell me if it's better. All right. Okay. Volume is up. Volume is a little low. Volume is low. Hi, Thor. Greetings. Good morning. Audio's low. This is the difference between the studio and Thor's home studio. Yeah, I know my settings are a little off. I don't do a whole lot of live streams from the home studio. Normally it's like a Zoom meeting or something. And my camera here is like a generic camera. It's not like my super nice Logitech camera that I have at the studio. Alrighty. Well, the lovely Kimberly can definitely join us for the broadcast if she chooses to do so. I have no objections to that whatsoever. Oh, good. I'm glad the volume is better now. All right. So what's the deal with the TD Bank and the Freedom Truckers? I missed that. So basically, like I said, TD Bank, the government of Canada basically demanded that TD Bank hand over the money, and they did. There's a judge involved, and it's in probate or whatever, and the Canadian government doesn't have the money, but that's not the point. The Canadian government doesn't need the money. The truckers need the money, and the truckers don't have the money. So there you go. And it's just, I don't know, this whole thing with these truckers. These are. I heard on the way when I was driving home. I heard on Fox Business, there was a guy who said, "This is like crazy role reversal. You've got these truckers that are literally obstructing commerce now. They're protesting, right? They're blocking the streets. Now, if this was an environmental group blocking the streets to save the trees, or if this was a protest for against the police or something, you'd have conservatives saying, you guys can't obstruct the streets like this. You can't shut down a city for your protest. Have your protest, that's fine, but you can't impact the day-to-day lives of everybody else around you, right? But with the Freedom Convoy, you've got conservatives saying, yeah, truckers, shut it down, baby. Let's cut off that commerce between America and Canada. If it puts my F-150 back in another couple of weeks, whatever. I'm sure the people in the Dearborn manufacturing plants appreciate that work there, the blue-collar people that work there. On the other hand, you've got Democrats who are advocating slashing tires, draining gas tanks, and arresting the Freedom Convoy, and i.e., let's crush this workers' rebellion at its root. I thought the Democrats were for the people. I thought it was like the Democrats were for the little guy, the blue-collar guy, right? The union guy. What is going on in our world? Everything is upside down and backwards. And so it's one of those things where you're like, is there something to, it made me stop and think and say to myself, if these were like environmental protests that were, protesting the deforestation of trees or something, I would probably feel differently about this. So the cause matters. So it's not the tactics, but the cause that's important. Or are there some tactics that should never be used? It really makes you think when you stop and reasonable people can stop and think about this and say, obviously what these truckers are doing is because they're being told they can't have their livelihood. That's a pretty big deal. The government is literally taking away their livelihood. Learn to code. You can do that unvaccinated in your basement, right? What the heck is going on? Deforestation is a big deal, yeah, okay. Tree farms, they're planted and they're harvested, and then they're planted and harvested. You don't hear about decornification, where, every year thousands and thousands of acres of corn are slaughtered, Well, we plant them to be slaughtered. Now, that's different than the rainforest, I suppose. But if there was a bunch of truckers blocking the Colombian highway to stop deforestation of the rainforest, would anybody really care? Not here. So it's one of those things, and this is spreading because it's not. I don't think this isn't about economics. This is about core freedom. This is something that a lot of people have been saying for a long time, and I have to be careful how I phrase this because, unfortunately, we do kind of live at the mercy of our technological overlords here. So I have to be a little careful with how I phrase my stuff. But there's a legitimate thing called freedom that some countries value more than others, right? So in China, if you're broadcasting at the Olympics and you start to say something they don't like, Chinese soldiers can grab you and end your live stream, end your live broadcast, and arrest you. That actually happened in China during the Olympics. I don't know if you saw that. They literally arrested a journalist in the middle of a live broadcast. And then they shut the camera off. It was just like, you're done. I don't know what he said they didn't like, but you're done. That's China. That's a communist country. That's an authoritarian country. In democratic countries, you tend to have a freedom to express your political opinions. There is the freedom to express dissenting opinions. Now, sometimes, please don't confuse equality of opinion with fact, number one, or even, in some cases, equality of opinions with each other. I mean, there was an article I read yesterday that re-explained the Overton window. And the Overton window is a window of things that are politically acceptable at a moment in time. And politicians, the objective of a politician is actually not to stand on a principle. The objective of the politician is to gauge where the Overton window is in society right now. What is acceptable to society right now? And I will craft all my policies to fit within that window. That's why you've got politicians that 10 years ago were like, anti-gay, pro-marriage, and now they're, not. Well, my views have evolved. It's like, no, your views didn't evolve. The Overton window moved. And if you wanted to stay elected, you had to move with it. So even if you have personal views or political views about, is it okay to mandate somebody having a vaccine? Is it okay to require them to have a vaccine in order to make a living? Is it okay to require school children to wear masks all the time when, adults in the room don't have to, especially political adults in the room? So these are all questions we can all ask, right? Well, the Overton window was firmly in the camp of, we're all going to die if we don't do these things, so do those things, right? Canadians have over a 90% vaccination compliance rate. They're the most vaccinated country in the world. And this protest is happening in Canada. Because 10% of the population, some of those truckers are vaccinated. But they know what's going to happen to their fellow truckers who don't want to get vaccinated, who maybe can't get vaccinated. And the idea that this person's living in a bubble in a truck most of their life. They get out to go into the Flying J and get some pizza, right? That's some good pizza, by the way. I'll stand in line with a COVID-19 positive person to get a slice of Flying J pizza any day of the week. But, for the most part, these people are self-isolated anyway. And because of the lifestyle of being a trucker and being on the road and moving so much, you can't test like a person who is fixed in a position that has an office they go into every day and they can stop at the clinic on the way in or get a test, or Joe Biden will send them a test or whatever. It just doesn't work, right? So there's this core freedom concept, and the Overton window is shifting because of the truck protest, because of the Freedom Convoy, in large part. A lot of people who have been uncomfortable but begrudgingly have gone along with this for this long are now saying, maybe it's time, and we're 2 years in, maybe it's time we try some different things. People are more open to that idea now. They're not afraid of imminent death from COVID-19. So that window is shifting. It's shifting away. That's why Governor Youngkin got elected. That's why you're seeing all of a sudden Joe Biden is suddenly tough on crime Joe Biden again. Very proud of his 90s crime bill again. Whereas 6 months ago, he wouldn't even talk about it. It was a mistake. Sorry, my views have evolved. Well, that window is shifting now because people are getting killed. And people are getting murdered and raped and carjacked and all kinds of other nasty things. So it was really enlightening to hear like the concept of the Overton window isn't a politician isn't like there to be a virtuous, stalwart defender of anything. Their views are going to shift to match the views of the voting population. And at first I had a visceral reaction to that. I was like, that sucks. I want somebody who stands for something being in office. I want somebody who is going to be rigid, who is going to not bend, who is going to insist upon what they know is right. But isn't that what we have now? rigid politicians who insist they know what is right and therefore will mandate it upon you? So is the Overton window concept such a bad thing that politicians would actually change their views to match the views of the population of the democracy in order to remain elected? There's a kind of brilliance to that, right? A weaselly, slimy kind of brilliance, but a brilliance all the same. So anyway, that was the deal with the TD Bank and the Freedom Truckers thing. They took their money so that they don't get it. You mentioned getting returned refurb parts. Gamers Nexus has a video about Newegg. Oh, Newegg is awful. Like returning something to Newegg, first of all, if you get something that's defective, to send it back to Newegg, you have to have all of the original packaging. I'm talking down to the zip tie, down to like the twist tie on the cord. Everything has to be there or they will reject your return. And then when they do take it back, they test it and then they sell it as a refurb. And it's hit or miss at best. And considering that when you buy the refurb, sometimes there's no returns on them. Other times you have to return it, but you have to have all the original stuff. But when you get a refurb from Newegg, it may be missing some things. And so therefore, how do you return everything if you're missing something from the get-go? Big one we've been noticing lately on motherboards is the I/O shield. It's the little piece of metal that goes on the back of your computer, your desktop tower, that goes around where all the ports are that plug in. So where your USB ports and everything are. The case, when we buy the case, it just has a hole there, right? And because every motherboard is different. And the motherboard manufacturer makes what's called the I/O shield, which is a neat little piece of metal that pops into the case. It's sized to fit the case, and it's specifically cut out for the ports on that motherboard. So you get a nice clean look on the back. Keeps junk and stuff from flying into the computer too. Functionally, it's not, you don't need it, but it looks pretty. And we see those missing. Like we're getting, I would say probably 1 in 20 motherboards that are brand new, we're getting with missing I/O shields, and we have to send them back because we don't have an I/O shield. So we have a pile of bad boards and a pile of boards that came with no I/O shields, and we're taking the I/O shields from the bad boards and putting them with the good boards and sending the bad boards back, and I'm guessing that's where other people are getting the bad I/O I don't know. But it's a mess, guys. Just getting stuff in. I got 10 cases in. We cut through those now. I'm going to have to order another 10 somewhere. Trying to get the same ones that match. That's a challenge. Asus is coming out with 11th gen laptops, so we're seeing all kinds of supply chain snafus in the 10th gen laptops that we normally offer. Just craziness. This week I can get touchscreen. This week I can't get touchscreen. This week touchscreen is cheaper than regular screen. That makes no sense. So some days you get a touchscreen when you don't even want one because, well, why not? It's free. Other days you don't. So then my guys are like, hey, we're going to get any more of those ones with the touchscreens? And I'm like, I don't know. I've got 12 ordered that don't have touchscreens, the 3 ordered that do have touchscreens, because the touchscreen ones, for whatever reason, ship faster. And if I want to have inventory on hand, I will pay 30% more per unit to have that item here so I can sell it to you while I wait for the old one. So I've tried to get a supply chain of long orders in, orders that take like a month to fill, so that we have a constant flow of these computers coming in. But then the problem is they either all come at once or they take 2 months to come in. It's unexpected. So it's a mess right now. And I mean, it's not a you problem, it's an us problem. Our job is to make it look stupid, smooth on the surface, everything looking good. And that's what we try to do for you. So I just wanted everyone to know that if you were looking for an Intrepid laptop, we're going to have those in again on Monday. We're just out of stock everywhere but Des Moines right now on those. Excuse me. Your donations by crypto were my thoughts on that. Yeah, the crypto donations are really going to... It is amazing how fast the technological world can adapt to what the government does and how slow the government is in understanding it. I mean, primarily because, number one, I mean, let's be honest, like the government is run by mostly old people, like really old people. People that are not using the latest technology. And that's nothing wrong with that, because you want people with experience in some of these positions, right? You want people who know what they're doing dealing with Russia and the Ukraine. You don't want, some kid coming in there being like, hey, they make cool video games in the Ukraine. We should like totally go to war. Yeah, you don't want that. So on the other hand, though, you need to have some younger people in that are able to advise on policy, that understand what crypto is and how it works, and how they can move it forward. Because, I mean, literally, guys, there's a lot of noise right now. Like, is the inflation rates up? Are they going to raise rates? Are they going to raise rates on Monday? Like an emergency meeting? They're having an emergency meeting tomorrow. Are they going to raise rates tomorrow in an emergency meeting? Are they going to raise them a full point? Ooh, that'd be scary. Half point? Ooh, quarter point maybe? I don't know. What's the emergency? It's an emergency meeting, right? So in all the noise, everybody gets wrapped up in the noise and what's going to happen the next day in the NASDAQ or the next week in the NASDAQ or, in all the markets and everything. I am trying to take a step back because it's really tempting to become a gold bug and take like 100 steps back and be like, I've got my stack of pet rocks in the safe and I'm going to be good no matter what happens. Ha ha ha. And you will be. You'll be fine. But the problem is the world we live in is a financialized world. So if you want to acquire wealth, if you want to become wealthy and you're not currently wealthy, if you have all the money of God and you can buy all the pet rocks you want, you're fine. What if you don't? What if you're just starting out? What if you're 20 years old and you're trying to figure out how you're going to, support a family at some point? How you're going to ever afford a house at the rate the prices are going? The interest rates are going up. How am I going to get it? I saw an article that said basically, I'll summarize it for you. To save up a 20% deposit on a house, a person will be in their 40s now. So a kid graduating high school today will be in their early 40s if they are diligent savers to save up a 20% deposit on a house because of all the other stuff that's going on in the world around them. And that's if they're diligent, if they're responsible. If they make all the normal mistakes that people make, it's much longer than that, which is why you have home ownership difficulty at all-time highs. So over time, I try to take a step back. Not like 100 steps. I don't want to be the gold pet rock guy. I do have a little pet rock, but not a ton. Literally not a ton. I wish I had a ton. Not a ton. But I try to take a step back because let's look at the core problems. The core problem is we have too much money chasing too few goods. That's inflation. So how do you fix that? You either circulate less money, you pull money out, or you pump in more goods, right? It's really hard right now to pump in more goods. We got blockages at the Canadian border. We got boats that are not unloaded still. It's getting. I thought I heard that the port situation was under control. No, what I heard was it's not getting worse anymore. It's stabilized. So now it's like a stable 3 months to get to port, as opposed to 3 months in climbing. So it's not fixed. It's just stabilized bad. Okay, it's like you had a heart attack, but you're stable. You still are in the hospital, and it's still bad, but you're stable. Great. So I don't think we're going to be getting more goods anytime soon, right? I don't think that's going to happen. I'm looking down the line at fertilizer costs. I mean, look, we're from the Midwest, right, guys? Look at fertilizer costs. Fertilizer costs are up. I mean, I don't even know what they're up. I want to say at least 100%, at least. Maybe as much as 600. It's either 60% or 600%. I can't remember. But they're up a lot. And fertilizer is at the root of our food chain. So fertilizer is used to grow grain, which is used to feed cattle, which is, you can see how it propagates through, right? So the cost of food inflation is not going away. It's going to get worse. So the only thing that the Fed can really do, they can't do anything about the supply chain. That's going to work itself out eventually. The market will take care of that. They got to pull the money out. They got to pull the money out. So raising interest rates doesn't pull money out of the market. Raising interest rates increases the cost of transactions. So it slows an economy, right? And so the last thing you want to do if you're trying to increase the amount of goods in the economy is to slow it down, right? So what's the other thing that they could do? Well, they could end QE now. They could just cold turkey it. Done. No more quantitative easing. The bond market would be in bad trouble. There probably would be a recession off that alone. But they would stop pumping money into the market. So maybe it'd still be bad, but it would be stable, kind of like the shipping. Because we know the goods are going to work themselves out. We just need some time. We can raise interest rates slowly over time and not really cripple the market. We understand that. But The quantitative easing's got to stop. We got to stop pumping money in. And so I'm guessing that that's what their Fed meeting is about. So the challenge is, do we really believe that the Fed is going to stop quantitative easing? They're going to dry up the money pool. There's a lot of reasons why that's very difficult to do. Raising interest rates, a lot of reasons that's really difficult to do. The supply chain, it will fix itself. That was the reason everything was temporary in the beginning. I was like, oh, it's just temporary. It'll be fine. Well, now COVID cases are going down. Omicron's going away. So if the Fed overreacts and the supply chain stabilizes and they overreact, we could end up with deflation and a recession and a depression and all this other nasty stuff. So from my perspective, if I take a step back, the money, the value of the currency is not stable. And I'm not certain that we have the political will to implement the policies that would need to be implemented in order to fix that. So what did Paul Volcker do in the 80s? Well, he raised interest rates to 20%. We didn't have the national debt that we have right now. So when you raise the interest rates, the rates for all those old bonds don't go up to 20%. They stay at whatever you paid for, right? So the value of those bonds goes down because new bonds that are being issued have a 20% interest rate. And the old bonds have a 1 point whatever percent interest rate. Who wants the old bonds? I want the new bonds. So I'm going to sell my old bonds. Everybody's selling the old ones, drives the price of the bonds down to raise money to buy the new bonds, right? How is the government going to afford 20% interest on the national debt as it rolls it over session after session after session? We can't. We can't afford 10%. We can't afford 5%. We can barely afford 2.5%. So in my head, I'm thinking interest rates aren't going to go up over 3% because the federal government can't do it. They literally can't do it. They would go bankrupt. And they print the money. And so if inflation's a problem, they can't just print their way out of it, so they can't do it. So 3% is our ceiling on rates no matter what happens in the intermediate term, the next 2 years. Okay. Number two, quantitative easing has to end. So they're planning on winding it down slowly, and they keep saying it's going to be faster and faster and faster, so that's got to end. So they're going to end that. What's going to happen when the money dries up? The liquidity dries up. The amount of money sloshing around in the system. We're so used to having all this money sloshing around where you can get 0% car loans by fogging a mirror. Literally at Ford, you can fog a mirror and get a 0% car loan. I mean, literally, it's that easy. I think you have to have like a 600 credit rating to get a 0% loan with nothing down. It's insane. What happens when all of a sudden they need 10% down payments and the interest rate is 4%, 3%? Well, you can afford less car, right? So this is going to depress consumerism. You're going to see consumers buying less stuff, which is going to literally, they're boxed. There is no way out without severe pain for everybody. So crypto is literally the only area that has not been around the last time this happened. We don't know how any of this is going to impact cryptocurrencies. We could have a high inflation scenario where cryptocurrency prices relatively go up because of inflation. We could have a situation where crypto prices go down because the stock market crashes and everybody's got to sell assets to cover their bets or whatever, so they're going to sell their crypto. So we could see a price of crypto drop dramatically. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So long story short, right now, cryptocurrency is not a place you want to be with your retirement money. If you're planning on retiring in the next 5 years, it's not where you want to put your money, because the volatility, even for me, the volatility is going to be insane. Now, with that said, I'm 45 years old, so 5 years, I'd love to retire in 5 years. The only way that's going to happen is if I put it into crypto and it goes to the moon, right? So if I'm a crypto millionaire all of a sudden, which does that even mean anything if the currency's inflating? I don't know. Then that's great. So I guess when I take a step back and I look at this, I look at the landscape and I realize it doesn't matter whether you're in stocks or you're in bonds or you're in real estate. It doesn't matter. It's all going to get hit. It's coming for everything. The only area that we don't know what's going to happen is crypto. And you can make cases for all kinds of different things to happen with crypto, or it could be a giant escape valve for the world. Because when the U.S. economy slows down, the world's going to slow down. And when that happens, maybe people move to crypto. Maybe El Salvador says, see, we told you so. Our economy is doing great. Do you know El Salvador's economy is like explosively growing right now? And that more people have Bitcoin wallets in El Salvador than have bank accounts since they made it a national currency. It's genuinely something to watch. All right, so enough about crypto. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of crypto commercials during the Super Bowl. A lot. Yeah, everyone's got a crypto thing. Got an email saying I need to verify an account on MetaMask, online wallet. Yes, MetaMask is, do not use MetaMask. If you use MetaMask right now as a crypto wallet, run. MetaMask has been getting successfully hacked since August of like 2020. And right now they're fishing around for people saying, hey, you need to verify this information. So people who have a MetaMask account might actually verify it. I get those emails too. Do not verify it. Don't click the links. Don't unsubscribe. Don't do anything that would indicate that the email was read in any way. And if you have a MetaMask account, get your coins out of there fast and move on to something else. All righty. Lou says the volume is great. Lou's my son. Truckers have a limited time to make an impact. In a few years, trucks will be autonomous, and this protest may just quicken the push for autonomy. Not unlike McDonald's going to kiosks and robotics, it was now or never for truckers to have any impact. That is entirely possible, but here's the other thing. The autonomous stuff is a lot further off than a lot of people think. The technology just isn't quite ready for that yet. We can make trucks. So in other words, there's a case to be made for autonomous trucking that is the middle mile. So in other words, you have a truck driver that drives the truck to the interstate and then unhooks where the trailer is hooked to an autonomous truck that then gets back on the interstate and drives the 600 miles down the interstate, pulls off there where another human trucker picks up the truck and then takes the trailer into the town, drops it off wherever it needs to go. Truck drivers do a lot more than just driving trucks. They're in some cases they're involved in the loading and the unloading. They're involved in documentation. There's a lot of things that have to be automated before truck drivers are eliminated. It'll happen eventually. I mean, a lot of jobs are going to be replaced by technology. But I will say this: the VCR was going to destroy Hollywood. Remember that? People could watch movies at home. Why would they go to the theaters? This is ridiculous. That was in the early 80s. People were worried about that. And we're just now, after a pandemic, at a point where movie theaters are like, are we going to make it? So, I mean, you have a lot more time than you think. The Xerox machine was going to destroy the publishing industry. Because, why would you buy a book if you could photocopy it? Have you ever tried to photocopy a book? Maybe a textbook for school, because those are stupid expensive. But you're going to use it once. But anyway, I think that the truckers do have an extreme amount of leverage right now, everywhere. The challenge is that it's tempting to paint everyone in the industry with the same brush and say the truckers are doing this. There are lots of different people in the truckers. There are some people who are there to show their support but can only be there for a little while. There are other people who want to show their support but can't because they have to drive the trucks to places. There are people there that are not even truckers, that are just protesters that are unrelated to the truckers. So there's a lot going on here aside from the truckers. But yeah, the truckers have become the lightning rod, and they're racists, and they're white supremacists, and they're insurrectionists, and they're revolutionaries, and they're terrorists. And I mean, literally every ist word that you can call these guys, they've been called at this point. And it's to the point now where no one's even reacting anymore to that. And I think that's got the Canadian government a little spooked because, they're usually pretty amenable, until you stop them from getting to the hockey game. And then all of a sudden, it gets rough. Oh, let's see. I heard Ukraine is number one, two, or three supplier for most resources. Let's see. We give China resources, Afghanistan. Yeah, Ukraine does provide a bunch of resources. They provide a lot of. They're mostly an agricultural country, though. They're very much like a Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota kind of area. They a lot of grain, some natural resources, but not a ton. Very industrious workforce. Good good people. I mean, you know, my kids watch YouTube videos from people that make them in the Ukraine. Vlad and Nikki. And they watch these videos of them opening toys and doing different things and making videos on YouTube. I mean, and they love it. So I mean, it's we bought my son a Christmas present from Ukraine for Christmas this year, and it wasn't because we were trying to support the Ukrainian economy or anything. It was a really cool thing. It was handmade wood parking garage for Hot Wheels cars. It's 3 stories tall. Had all his name on the top of it and all the ramps and everything. It was really cool. A guy was selling it on Instagram from the Ukraine. He had a lot of great reviews. We got it for Lou, and he loves the thing. Yep, I've got my cup right here. I'm just saying most of the news media in Canada is subsidized by the federal government. Yeah, that's the thing. It's everybody's got interests. Everybody's got interests. They don't always align, and I think that a lot of people are starting to realize that okay, why are you? One time, I don't know if you're in Nebraska, you're probably getting robocalls about Mike Flood and Jeff Fortenberry. Two politicians in Nebraska. Jeff Fortenberry was recently, I don't know, accused of taking illegal campaign contributions knowingly. Mike Flood is a stand-up guy that is trying to primary him, basically. Jeff Fortenberry's been there for a long time. And I got a picture with Jeff Fortenberry once, way back, like 15, 16, 17 years ago when he was in Congress. And in the picture, he puts his arm around you and he smiles and he points at you. And then without even moving his lips, he says, "What are you running for?" Because it was like, that's the only reason you want a picture with me. You're trying to use this for a campaign. Like, what are you running for? I mean, it becomes a little incestuous after a while up there. And, it took Reagan 2 years to correct the economy after Carter. Yeah, it took Reagan 2 years, and he also changed the definition of inflation. That's the thing. Politicians be politicking, and Reagan wasn't an exception. He was. Trust me, I agree wholeheartedly with the principles of government that Reagan espoused, but he had to show results like anybody else. Just like when Trump says that the Chinese are paying the tariffs. No, they're not. I literally am the one writing the checks for the tariffs, and China ain't reimbursing me. I don't know where do I send my bills because I had to pay like 10 grand in tariffs during the Trump administration that I didn't have to pay before the Trump administration. But I understood why he was doing it. It frustrated me a little that he was lying and saying that the Chinese were paying the tariffs. American businesses were paying the tariffs, and that was putting pressure on China to either lower the cost of their goods or allowing the cost of Chinese goods to be expensive enough for businesses to move their supply chains to the Philippines or to Taiwan or somewhere else that was still an Asian country. It wasn't bringing it home to America, but the costs were high enough that other competitors were able to take the business from China so we could diversify that supply chain a little bit. So, I mean, politicians be politicking. If we were measuring inflation that we have today the same way that Ronald Reagan measured it in 1982, we would have over 15% inflation year over year. It's pretty sad. Not going to watch the bowl game. Going to watch a good movie. I'm going to watch it, Roger, because it's kind of like a tradition. It's something that I can sit down with my family and do. The halftime show. Everybody got all bent out of shape about Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and the halftime show. And one of the things, Snoop Dogg. If you learn about Snoop Dogg, the dude is a math whiz. Like, he's got a degree in mathematics. And to him, all music is math, basically. He's 60, okay? He's an old man now. He ain't rapping about the things he was rapping about. Maybe he is. I don't know. But he's rapping to the geriatrics now, I guess. I don't know. But he was culturally important when I was in college. Like, everybody listened to Snoop Dogg. Dr. Dre and Death Row Records. In fact, Snoop Dogg just bought Death Row Records. and some of the catalogs that went along with it. Got some of his own catalogs back. He's got a new album coming out. I don't know who's going to buy it. I don't know. I was driving through the Sonic drive-thru, and there was like a sticker on the window that said, "Get the exclusive Snoop Dogg from new release song from Sonic. Go to Sonic there, and then here's a QR code." I'm like, I don't know. I didn't go there, but I'm going to hear songs that I heard in college, right? They're not shocking. There's not going to be any Janet Jackson costume wardrobe malfunctions. Heaven forbid there is with Snoop Dogg. But anyway, I think it's going to be a pretty chill halftime. I might actually watch it. I don't know. We'll see. The game, I don't know anything about either of the teams. Literally nothing. Nothing. I don't know who to root for. I'm going to root for whoever's losing. I like underdogs. I'm going to root for whoever's losing. I'm going to eat some good food and chill out with my wife on the couch and just enjoy an evening, I think. But watching a good movie is an alternative as well. We'll do that afterward. I hate to see a judgment call an autonomous truck would make. Do I smash into a family of 5 that ran the light, or do I ditch and destroy my load and vehicle? Yeah, there is the ethics component of the autonomous vehicle stuff. I hate to be the guy that has to make that decision. It's the same thing. It's just you have one guy making the decision for every truck everywhere. It's algorithmic bias, they call it. Okay, let's see. I wish I could. Oh, I can't extend that. Perfect. All right. On Thursday, the first Amazon cargo flight landed at Epley. They plan to fly a plane in daily. Another Amazon last mile warehouse opened in North Omaha. Yeah, there's one open in Papillion just up the street from the service center. So that's pretty exciting. They were hoping that we actually... there are some things that we order pretty regularly from Amazon because you can't order it after shipping. You can't get it cheaper directly wholesale. The shipping cost, Amazon has the shipping logistics so well refined that power supplies, great example. The power supplies we put in the computers, they cost $6 less to order from the wholesaler, but cost $4 more per unit to ship than if we bought on Amazon. So our total savings is $2 a unit. So if I order 100 units, I save $200. Well, that's $200 saved, so we make that decision. Batteries, totally different calculus. Because batteries are single use, right? So you bring your laptop in with a bad battery, we have to order a battery. We're going to order one battery, it's going to go into one box, and we're going to pay $26 UPS shipping or $20 UPS shipping to get it to us. That same battery on Amazon might cost $4 more, but we'll get it free shipping, and we'll get it in 2 days. Makes sense to order it from Amazon. So literally, they've integrated themselves into the supply chain of just about everything. Where do you go to buy office supplies now? Literally, where? We needed a box of paper. I bought it on Amazon. We needed Sharpies. Where did I go buy Sharpies? I guess I could go to Walmart. Do you have Sharpies? Where's your Sharpie aisle? Where's your pens aisle? Do stores still have an aisle for pens? Remember when there used to be a whole aisle for just pens and stuff like that? In general, I think it's people who feel they've been brushed off by the powers that be and their social engineering agendas. And I agree with you 100%, but there's always going to be a group of people that think they're brushed off because there's always going to be a people implementing an agenda. So whether you're left or right, during the Trump administration, a lot of people on the left felt like they were completely brushed off. And I guess they go suck an egg while they wait for somebody else to beat Trump. That's why the election in 2020 was so hotly contested. A lot of people felt they got brushed off. One thing that was interesting that I was thinking about, wouldn't it be interesting, and I don't know that this would happen, wouldn't it be interesting if President Trump ran again for another term and he is so ticked off at the Republican Party for lip service support that he picks Joe Manchin as his vice president? Someone that all the Democrats hate. Wouldn't that be you almost just want to see it, just so you could say it happened. John McCain considered several Democrats when he was running because that was a gimmick that he was going to do. But, Joe Manchin and Donald Trump are pretty much aligned on a lot of things when you look at it. Donald Trump has Mar-a-Lago. Joe Manchin has a yacht he lives on. So it would be, I'm just saying, you push the guy too far and he's going to run and he's going to probably get the nomination unless something crazy happens between now and then watch him pick someone, watch him pass over a DeSantis for someone like a Joe Manchin or something. It would be something. Your approach to the issues of the day are brilliant. Thanks for the forum. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, John. Yeah, that's true, Ronald. The performers and volunteers do not get paid for the halftime show. In fact, I have heard they actually pay for the privilege to be on the halftime show. So why would Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and all these other guys be paying money to be on the Super Bowl halftime show? Now, number one, you could say, hey, we were on the Super Bowl halftime show. But who's going to remember that 2 years? Who was on the Super Bowl halftime show 2 years ago? Bieber? I don't know. I'm just guessing. The only reason anyone ever remembers Janet Jackson did a halftime show was because, well, they had to get the FCC involved with that one, So that's the only reason I remember that one. Who else had a memorable halftime show? Maybe it's because I don't watch them really closely. I love to watch the commercials, though. And I hope the crypto commercials are more than just like, buy our cryptocurrency, get our coins, because that would be really boring. All right, so contamination forces NAND flash storage prices to go up. According to Western Digital Corporation, this contamination will result in a shortage of at least 6.5 exabytes of flash storage. How big is an exabyte? 1 exabyte is 1 billion gigabytes. It's a lot of storage. Company discovered that certain materials, they're being cagey about it. Certain materials have become contaminated in 2 of its flash storage manufacturing plants in Japan. These were being operated as part of a joint venture with the Kioxia Holdings Group. While it's unclear what the contamination is, Western Digital is saying it will have a dramatic impact on the production and predicting that there will be a shortage of 6.5 exabytes of flash storage. And I believe that was in the second quarter that was going to happen. Analysts at TrendForce claimed that damaged bits account for 13% of the group's output in the first quarter. So 13% of the memory that gets manufactured is defective. That gets caught in the factory is defective. This is why we tell you when you get a hard drive, guys, you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting a defective drive out of the gates. That's why we test them before we put them in our modular computers and our solid-state laptops, and then we add Drive Advisor on top of it to monitor them. Because in the first year, if a hard drive is going to die, it usually dies in the first year. Otherwise, they last a long time usually. All right, so 13% of the group's output in the first quarter of 2022 and 3% total for the year. This may cause the price of NAND flash to increase 5 to 10% during the second quarter of this year. So we're talking April, May, and June. How much will this affect real-world pricing is up for debate. Nobody really knows because, are they going to eat it? Is it going to be a temporary hit? Are they going to lose market share to other manufacturers that don't have contamination problems? There's a lot of questions to be answered here. Western Digital Storage and Manufacturing is focused heavily on SSDs and eMMC, that's discrete memory that's on the motherboard for computers. Since demand is expected to be revised downward in quarter 2, in other words, people are expected to be buying fewer computers in the second quarter than they did in the first quarter. This would have usually driven prices down, but production hit is likely to mean that prices are going to remain stable. So Western Digital could come out ahead on it. We just don't know. All right, next up. Congress pressures more agencies to end the use of facial recognition after the ID.me debacle. So do you remember we talked about this a couple weeks ago? The IRS was going to require you to submit a facial recognition scan through ID.me in order to submit your tax return. It was supposed to up the security, basically, of the tax return, but it also gives the government facial recognition scans for every single person that is submitting a tax return, which might come in handy when you're trying to compare those facial recognition scans with the database of people who have submitted facial recognition scans to cryptocurrency exchanges, which is a very common thing you have to do. You have to hold up your photo ID with your picture on it and your face next to it and a piece of paper with your account number so that, click, we know that you are a real person, that you do exist, you do have documentation, this is your account number. Well, that facial image is stored in their databases. So if the government comes along and says we need to know everyone who has a crypto account, well, we don't know his address or his name or whatever. Well, that's all right. If he's filed a tax return in the United States, we can run the facial recognition and see who is somebody that maybe underreported their crypto taxes. So it got to be kind of a big deal. Even though the IRS has ended its deal with ID.me, the Veterans Affairs Administration, the Social Security Administration, and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office still use it. Had no idea that veterans were being asked to do this. Members of Congress are continuing their push against facial recognition using the federal government in the wake of the IRS decision to stop using ID.me. On Wednesday, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and a bunch of other politicians called on the Department of Homeland Security to end its use of the facial recognition technology. Quote, facial recognition tools pose a serious threat to the public's civil liberties and privacy unit. It is particularly dangerous, said this one person. We urge you to immediately stop the department's use, blah, 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 blah. Reportedly allows users to capture and upload photos of strangers, analyze the photograph's individual's biometric information, and provides the users with existing images and personal information of the photographed individuals found online. I.e., you can take a picture of somebody and match it with other pictures of them, just like you would do if you were looking for cryptocurrency accounts. Clearview AI reportedly scrapes billions of photos off social media sites without permission or notice from the pictured individuals. So, in other words, whenever you upload pictures to your social media, if you don't have your privacy set to be, private, only to you and your people that are your friends in your network, your pictures are getting scraped by facial recognition companies, by China, by everybody, and added to databases worldwide. They go on to explain the use of facial recognition technology would deter people from participating in marches and rallies for fear of being permanently included in law enforcement databases. So if you're gonna be a trucker at the convoy and they're gonna take your picture, they're taking pictures of license plates. Are they taking pictures of truckers? Are they going to add them to databases and use them to match their biometric signatures to enforce things against them in the future? Well, I mean, if these truckers were taking their security and safety seriously, they'd be wearing a mask, right? If your iPhone can't figure out who you are with a mask on. Sorry, I'm just joking. Remember when bank robbers wore masks? All right. Additionally, past law enforcement use of this technology reported targeted Black Lives Matter activists. Use of increasingly powerful technologies like Clearview AI has concerning potential to violate Americans' privacy rights. So this is exactly that double standard. We can't have facial recognition because it might be used to target Black Lives Matter protests. Or let me rephrase that to say it might be targeted against people whose political ideologies we are aligned with. But it's okay to use that technology to attack people whose political ideologies we are not aligned with. That's okay. Therefore, as the authors of Facial Recognition and Biometric Technology Moratorium Act would halt all of this, I just want to know what the Veterans Department is doing. Like, how do they use this? Let's see. The Veterans Affairs Administration, Social Security Administration, Patent and Trademark Office are using ID.me for unemployment benefits. So if you want to submit an unemployment benefit application, you have to use a facial recognition scan. Veterans trying to access their benefits, elderly people trying to access Social Security Administration resources, and those applying for unemployment benefits in dozens of states are all facing the same problems and threats that caused the IRS to stop using the ID.me. Many of these essential services are critical for marginalized groups who are people that are already disproportionately targeted by surveillance and misidentified by facial recognition technologies. The misidentification is a nod to the fact that for one reason or another, please don't misunderstand me saying this, facial recognition technology has trouble differentiating people with darker faces for some reason. We don't know. They're still working on that. They're improving the technology, but people with darker skin complexions are more likely to be misidentified using facial recognition technology than people with lighter complexions. So it's one of those algorithmic biases, ID.me to let users delete selfies. So in the wake of the IRS decision, the CEO said that they decided to modify the process and will now allow people to choose to verify their identity with a human agent without going through a selfie check. Agencies will now choose this option because they don't want to lose the government money. And they will also allow ID.me users to delete their selfie or photos beginning on March 1st. So you can delete the selfie that you sent to them. I'm sure it's going to be deleted. Rule number 1 of database management is never delete data. I'm just saying, I'm telling you guys that. If I go to Alfonso and I'm like, Alfonso, we have data on these computers from like 1998. I really doubt we're going to see this Windows 98 computer come back in for anything. Can we delete it from the database to shrink the size of this database, which is 23 years of data? It's starting to get to be a monster. No, Thor, we cannot do that. No. You never delete the data. Never. We mark it recycled. We mark it as likely gone. No show up when you look, but it there. And I'm doing a horrible Venezuelan accent because Alfonso's awesome. He's an American citizen. He's from Venezuela. Our prayers are with him, by the way. He's on a plane to Venezuela right now. Something's going on with his dad down there, so he's on his way back in country to go look in on his family. But basically, Alfonso is like, don't delete the data. You never know. So, for example, what if you wanted to know how many computers a customer has had with you total in their lifetime? Who is your most valuable customer based on the volume of computers they've had you work on? Well, if you delete that data, you'll never know that. So you never know in the future how often does a customer replace their computer? Well, if you have data going back 20 years, you have a pretty good idea, right? Well, if you delete that data, you won't be able to figure that out. So that's what I'm telling you. Whenever you use Gmail, whenever you use Hotmail, whenever you use Teams or, any kind of free cloud, anything like that, the data is never deleted. Even when they tell you that you're deleting the data, you're just deleting the data from your view. You're not, I'll guarantee you're not deleting it from their servers. Otherwise, why do they need to keep getting more and more servers? Why can't they shrink the size of their database like I want to do so that my online system goes faster so my customers can get checked in quicker at the front desk? Sorry, little rant there. All right, let's see here. I'll close that window. China is buying facial recognition for their database. They need more non-Asian faces stored. I've heard that too. I heard 5G is a big problem going through windows, buildings, trees, etc. Plus, having to have more towers is causing a big problem rolling out 5G. Oh, yeah. Ronald, you're absolutely right. We do that, though. It has to do with the millimeter wave. So all radiation is light, including sound waves. You just can't see it, okay? Because our eyes aren't tuned to that. But if you can see radio waves, they all have a spectrum, just like light has a spectrum. So red light has a different spectrum than blue light. The waves are a different size, and our eyes interpret those waves to be blue or red or white or black or whatever. The wireless connectivity for 5G is a millimeter wave. So what I'm telling you is the light, the peak to trough, is literally a millimeter tall. And so when you have a peak to trough wave, an energy wave that's like a foot tall, if you're hitting a wall and there's like some obstruction in the wall, some of that's going to get through and you're going to have some signal propagation. Or if it hits a building or a hill or whatever, if the wave is 10 feet tall, you're going to hit a hill and some of that's going to get over the hill, right? When your wavelength is a millimeter tall, if it hits anything, it's not going through it. Anything. So you need a lot more transmitters because you have to have transmitters in every direction, covering every corner, getting rid of dead spots and all kinds of stuff. And so that's why you have so many more transmitters. Because the wave is so small, it doesn't go as far as opposed to the giant wave that travels a lot further. So it loses a lot of its capability as it goes on. So that's why there's so many more towers required. And that's why the obstructions do so bad with it. Will there be any pushback on how much energy crypto requires or uses the amount of energy they use producing marijuana? This whole energy thing is ridiculous. Let me look this up. There's got to be amount of energy. Excuse my clicky keyboard here. I've got a mechanical keyboard on my home computer. At the studio, obviously, it was a quiet key one. Bitcoin mining uses compared to whatever. Okay. More than used by entire countries. Okay, let's see. More energy is used mining gold than mining Bitcoin. Should we stop mining gold? Bitcoin uses more than 50% of its energy as renewable. Shouldn't they get a credit for that? Plant some trees? I don't know. I'm trying to see the Bitcoin energy is far more efficient. The banking system uses more energy than Bitcoin does. Galaxy Digital published a report last week. When was this printed? So I get some context here. This was May of 21. Galaxy Digital, then of course this is news.bitcoin.com, so for the source. Report last week entitled On Bitcoin's Energy Consumption, a Quantitative Approach to a Subjective Question. The authors described the report took a quantitative approach comparing Bitcoin's energy usage to that of other industries. Within the report was an energy consumption comparison between the banking system, gold, and Bitcoin. So the banking system, the top 100 bank data centers use an equal amount of energy to mining all the gold in the world, which is double the amount of the energy Bitcoin uses. To give you an idea of how much energy it requires to run a data center, if you might be familiar that Facebook has a data center in Sarpy County that they've opened near Papillion, just up the street from where Amazon's building their warehouse. That one Facebook data center uses more energy than the entire capital of Nebraska, than the entire city of Lincoln. One data center. And you're telling me that banks use a lot of data centers. Bitcoin is a distributed data center, basically. It's kind of funny. ATMs use, between the bank branches and ATMs, they use about 15%, I'd say. Yeah, rough. I'm eyeballing a chart here. 15% of the amount of energy that Bitcoin uses is used just to run bank branches and ATMs. So the overall energy consumed by the banking system is right around 260 terawatt hours per year, compared to Bitcoin at 120. So I mean, and on top of that, in Bitcoin, the equipment is constantly getting more energy efficient because you only make money. Energy is your input cost if you're mining. So the equipment's getting constantly more energy efficient, and the value of Bitcoin is constantly going up. So yeah, I mean, it's annual electricity consumption of the Bitcoin network is 113.89 terawatt hours per year. The system, yeah. So I mean, literally, am I expecting any fallout from the amount of energy? Only if virtue signaling idiots get control of something, which happens. So then there would be a fallout for sure. But if you're talking about the realness of things, the existing system that we have uses far more energy than Bitcoin. Now, with that said, the existing system that we have does a lot more work than the Bitcoin network does. So if you offloaded the entire world economy onto Bitcoin, would the system need more energy? Probably. So is it a fair comparison? I don't know. But all the same, I don't think it's going to be something that, the cost of energy is going up, which means the price of Bitcoin is going to have to go up. So that's the other way I look at this. If the cost of energy goes up, if the cost to run a Bitcoin mine goes up, miners will stop mining if they can't make a profit, which reduces the amount of Bitcoin entering the market, which results in higher prices. Of course, there's difficulty to take into account things like that, but in a nutshell, it's a supply-demand curve. If Bitcoin processes the same number of transactions as banks do, there isn't enough energy around to do it. Yeah, well, that's exactly right, Lee. There's a lot of different ways to cut this up. If Bitcoin was, like I said, running the world's economy, would it be using more energy? Definitely. Or would it? You see, you're confirming transactions with the process of mining. So the mining hash rate is relatively fixed. I mean, you can only increase that by adding equipment, and the equipment is what produces or consumes the energy. So if you had a sudden flood of transactions hit the Bitcoin network, more than they could process, there would be a demand for priority processing. You can actually pay a higher fee to get your transaction processed first. So people would start paying higher fees to have their transactions processed more quickly on the Bitcoin network, which would result in higher income to miners, which might lead miners to bring older equipment back online that's not as energy efficient because they want to get more of those increased payments. So there is a way, that one way or the other. But I guess, long story short here, I would like to know, and I don't know if there is this information out there, how much energy the world consumes right now compared to how much energy the world consumed like in the 1970s. I mean, and by energy, I mean like gasoline, oil, natural gas, heating oil, solar, because Jimmy Carter put some solar panels on the White House in the 70s. All those things added together. How much total energy were we using? I would venture a guess that we're using not that much more energy now than we were then because everything is so much more efficient. Total energy. This is so exciting right here. I know. Usage worldwide by year. Let's see if somebody's got a chart. Our world in data. Energy production and consumption. Let's see. How much energy does the world consume? Let's see. So in 1975, let's just grab a year here. Let's go 76. I was born in 76. There we go. 1976, we were producing and consuming 82,800 terawatt hours. And now we're consuming 171. So yeah, I mean, it's more than double. Percentages of where that was coming from. Yeah, 1976. There we go. Oil is more. Natural gas is more. Nuclear is about the same. Wind is slightly more than historic, but not a lot. Modern biofuels, hardly any. Other renewables, hardly any. Solar, solar is a whisper of a fart on here. Sorry, excuse my language, but literally solar's like when you're trying to find New Hampshire on a map. It's like there's like the little line off to the side that says New Hampshire is right there. That little dot, that's New Hampshire. Well, that's solar on the chart. They literally, I can't tell if they've increased or decreased. This chart has data for 2019 is the most recent year. And solar was 1,448 terawatts in 1975. Solar was 0. Solar was 1 in 93. 15. So I mean, it's increasing quite a bit. If we're talking about delta, it's going up quite a bit, but it's still nothing. If you added up all renewables, other renewables, modern biofuels, solar, wind, and hydropower, all together, it's 20,000 terawatt hours out of 170,000. So the idea that we can replace the energy that we're consuming with renewables is laughable with the technology we have now. Coal has seen a huge increase in use. Oil has seen a huge increase in use, and gas has seen a huge increase in use up through 2019. So yeah, so I guess you could make a case that Bitcoin mining is consuming a lot of energy, and that energy is coming from coal, gas, and oil, and those are fossil fuels. So therefore, it could be making global warming situations or climate change, because you can't call it warming now because some places are cooling. So now it's just climate change, making climate change happen. But that's above my pay grade. So we'll let the market take care of that. All right, last call for questions, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. It's easy to go longer here because I'm at home. I'm comfortable. I'm in my big comfy chair, got my own microphone and all my screens around me, and I don't have the blue light. You notice that? Like all my screens are non-blue light here. So like at the studio, it's like these harsh blue lights. You can actually see the bags under my eyes here a little better. But we've had some sick kiddos this week. There's a stomach bug of some kind going around, and everybody got it. I fought it off pretty well on Thursday. I tried to go to work Thursday, and I was like, I don't get sick. And when I do get sick, I whine and complain a lot, but I go to work anyway. This was me Thursday morning. It's super frustrating. So I have a Bitcoin mine. It consumes a lot of energy, right? I'm what you might call a small whale, more of a dolphin than a whale. But anyway, in the wintertime, since I'm pulling in outside air into my mine, in the wintertime, the intake air gets too cold. And if the intake air is too cold, the miners will quit because it's too cold. So you have to turn the miners so they're exhausting their hot, energy consuming global warming air back toward the intake because it's bringing in that negative degree temperature air mixing with the hot air, creating a normal room temperature for the miners to suck in from the front. Works out. The problem is this winter has been wackadoo. So I turned the miners around about a month ago when it was starting to get to the point, okay, hey, we got our snows, temperatures are reliably below zero overnight, so time to turn the miners around because we're going to get into like negative 10s, negative 15s, stuff like that. As soon as I turn those miners around, 60-degree days. Room gets to be like 120 degrees in there. It's too hot. The miners are turning off because they're overheating. Son of a biscuit. So Thursday I go in, and my task on Thursday was to rotate all the miners. I had to spin them around so that they're sucking air in the other direction again. Basically unwinterizing them in the middle of winter. It's a stump, but okay. And every single time I picked one up, they weigh about 20 pounds apiece. Every time I picked one up, I had that throb in my head, like that throb, that blood pressure, your head's going to pop kind of, ow, gosh, I just want to just not be standing up right now kind of throb. And just general unwell feeling in my stomach, like nausea at times. I thought it was just drainage. I'm like, hey, whatever. Haven't had lunch yet. I'm going to finish what I'm doing here, and then I'll see about eating. Because, you get the job done first, then you go eat. I'm not like these guys going off and getting my lunch and bringing it back while I work. Ooh, I don't have time for that. I'm going to get my work done. And then there's always more work to do, so then I just don't end up eating till I get home. Anyway, so yeah, Thursday I fought it off. Lovely Kimberly's hasn't really had a huge symptom. She's got a good headache today. Probably why she's not down here right now. Down here, I'm in the basement. That's where the man cave is. I'm in the basement. That's where we all end up, guys. Don't you know? But all three kids. Katie went down first. Just terrible for like a day and a half. Yeah, I won't give you the details, but it was bad. It was rough. Rough couple days of sleep. Then as soon as she got better, my teenager got it. He went down with it. And then later that morning, little Lou went down with it. But that kid's a fighter. I mean, he's going to be my entrepreneur kid, I think, because he was like, I know I just threw up in this bowl, Dad, but I want to eat an apple because I know I can keep it down. I know I can. I'm home so hungry. I need an apple. I want some grapes. He wasn't even asking for like chips and cookies and stuff. He was asking for like wholesome, hearty food that he'd promptly then regurgitate. But he kept trying until he kept it down. He's a stubborn little kid. And 24 hours later, he's running around up there, booming around. I don't know if you can hear that. Booming around up there doing little kid stuff. So anyway, so I better wrap it because I'm going to have to get back up there and make sure that everybody's okay and healthy and everything. Iceland is huge for crypto mining. Use natural cooling there, plus all their hydro and geothermal. Yeah, Iceland does a great job. Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. In fact, one time we actually tried to calculate. We calculated what it would take to take our Lincoln Service Center and go completely solar with it. So if we were going to do 100% solar and then backfeed into the grid to the Lincoln Electric system, what would it take? It was going to take about $30,000 or $40,000 of solar panels plus a $20,000 battery to store the power. Because of course, the sun doesn't always shine in Nebraska, and in the winter time, you wouldn't even get a full day of service center use. You'd be on the grid for the rest of the day. In the summertime, you'd be pumping a little money back in. The lifespan of the panels was 15 years. Our break even was 22 years. So why would you tie up $60,000 of capital for 15 or 20 years when you could just pay the electric bill and not tie up all that capital into something that's going to be completely used up by the time it's paid off? And that's assuming there's not a windstorm or a tornado or some kind of hail or something that damages the equipment. I mean, solar is tough. It's tough, guys. It doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of places, especially in Nebraska. But Iceland, man, they got it going on. Their geothermal stuff, they got volcanoes, they got ice, they got cold, they got everything a Bitcoin miner needs. Maybe, let's move to Iceland. The Vikings called Iceland because they didn't want anyone to settle there. And they called Greenland Greenland because it was like a nasty sheet of ice. So everyone, they were like tricking people. It was like fake news of the day, fake news Viking style. Everybody go to Greenland. It's green. You can have farms. Don't go to Iceland. Iceland is bad. Iceland is beautiful. All right, guys. Got to roll. Leave it to those Scandinavians. Hey now. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you next week.